Bitcoin. Are you staring at this chart right now wondering if Bitcoin will ever break back above all-time highs? And if it does, whether the altcoin market can recover along with it? Well, these charts are showing us something incredibly interesting about the altcoins versus Bitcoin and how we can expect to see altcoin prices moving over the next few days and weeks ahead. But what about the war in the Middle East? It's clearly having a negative impact on the crypto markets. Can it get worse? How's it affecting the M2 money supply? Does that mean that we can no longer rely on that as an accurate model to tell us where Bitcoin and the altcoins are going over the summer months? Well, if you're concerned about what's going on, you don't know which way to turn, I'm going to show you exactly what the data and information is telling us right now and what I'm personally doing to prepare for the next major moves. Do me a favor, hit the like button, and let's get into today's video. Now guys, before we jump into those key charts and understand exactly what the altcoins are doing, let's quickly have a look at something. Bitcoin has been up recently towards all-time highs, but seems to be getting rejected here. And we all know why, right? We've seen it all across the news. There's a war looming in the Middle East, and it seems to be getting worse. So, how is it affecting the global markets? Can we expect it to have more of an impact on crypto? Well, we've seen already this news coming out, and it seems to be escalating, doesn't it? But weirdly, we're not seeing much of a negative reaction from the FTSE 100, the Hang Seng, the S&P 500, or any of the global stock exchanges, showing that the banks, etc., aren't really expecting anything particularly major to happen. I talked about that on a video the other day. So fine, whatever. I don't hold stocks. I hold Bitcoin. I hold altcoins. So why is my crypto struggling so much? Well, let's just wind the clock back for a moment and jump back to October the 1st, 2024. And the reason I want to do that is this. You see, on October the 1st, 2024, Iran fired 200 rockets into Israel. Obviously, after that, it didn't necessarily escalate any further, but around that time, there was a lot of fear about it escalating further. If you remember that, let me know down below in the comments. You probably don't, because there's been a lot of emotional turmoil from crypto over the period of time that's been in between then. But let's just jump to a Bitcoin chart for a moment and have a look at where we were on the 1st of October 2024. In fact, we were around here, where Bitcoin was just about to break out of its 7-month-long sideways downtrend that obliterated the altcoin markets. After that moment, Bitcoin then goes up 84%. XRP goes up 6.5x, HBAR goes up 8x. We see huge runs across the crypto markets. So is this time any different? Well, like always, we see fear and worry in the markets. It always sounds really bad, and it's made even worse because our crypto portfolio suffers because of it. So we're suddenly like, well, yeah, obviously this war's bad for crypto. Actually, really, uncertainty is bad for crypto. But if war does come about, obviously it's not particularly good in the short term, but what it does tend to mean is we see more money printing. Uncertainty equals more money printing. It adds liquidity to markets, which is why since here, when we saw all that tariff news and all that liquidity flooding in to support all the pain that was caused by tariffs, we saw Bitcoin then rallying back up here. But it seems to be just forming a double top, much like we saw back in 2021. Well, back in 2021, it was a very different situation. Markets were incredibly euphoric around this period of time. Everyone was aping into everything. Gaming coins like Gala did 250x. Everyone was going bananas and begging to buy more. Definitely people weren't sitting there in fear and worry. Also, you weren't seeing BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, by the way, who holds $74 billion in crypto, buying literally millions and millions of dollars of Bitcoin and Ethereum every single day. Yesterday, they bought $15 million of Ethereum. Today, they've already bought $5.6 million of Bitcoin. Just 2 days ago, $32 million Bitcoin. See all these? This is smart money buying in while everyone else is panicked and fearful. It happens every time, okay? News, worrying events always create fear in the markets. But what about the M2 money supply? Is it even true anymore? I see little Timmy and the lads down in the comments putting the laughing emoji, saying that this M2 money supply is complete BS. I understand why you're feeling like that, because, you know, your portfolios are seeing some pain. So let's have a look at this. Let's put the M2 money supply to the test and see what's going on. If we jump to a weekly chart and we use this with a 12-week delay, which is what we've been doing always, an 84-day delay, we can see this. M2 money supply takes a little dip towards the side, and Bitcoin has just been going sideways for 4 or 5 weeks. Now, does that mean that the M2 is completely forgotten about? Well, actually, probably not. You see, M2 money supply is a rough guide to show you that Bitcoin increases when M2 goes up. And as you can see, M2 went up and Bitcoin went up along with it. But as you can see, that Bitcoin overshot here. Overshot its mark, went up far more aggressively perhaps than many of us were anticipated. This was one of the most hated rallies in crypto because little Timmy and everyone who was selling down here has then been forced to buy in back up here, and that's why they're now double angry, because now the prices have pulled back on them. But ultimately, they weren't the only one. Many people missed out on this rally. Now, what we saw is the rally overshot. It's just been going sideways. And now look, we find ourselves in this period of time. Is the M2 money supply out? Does it no longer give us any guide? Absolutely not, guys. M2 money supply shows you how money enters into crypto. Just because it's going sideways right now doesn't mean that it's not going to continue. And probably by the end of this week and into next week, doesn't really matter if we see a bit of chop in between, it goes higher. And how aggressively it goes higher? Well, as soon as it breaks these highs, things are going to get really exciting. And if we jump across to the daily chart right now, we can see that Bitcoin is just sitting in this kind of pennant pattern that it's been in for basically since back in April, okay? And it's just been bouncing around in this pennant pattern. Typically, after the pennant pattern is completed, we'll then see a bounce and continuation towards the upside. Now, there is around $25 billion worth of short positions sat in and around here. So once BlackRock and all the big smart money has finished buying up Bitcoin and Ethereum and is ready to move the prices higher because there's enough liquidity to support another move because the M2 has continued to climb beyond there, then we will see a big breakout. And every single time Bitcoin breaks beyond these major highs, it wakes up the altcoin market. Now, you probably realized, if you were in the market back in August of last year, that during this period of time, we had a very similar thing going on. Bitcoin seemed to be recovering, and maybe Solana and Sui had a bit of a recovery as well. But XRP, Cardano, people were like, these coins are broken. They're never going to go up. They're never going to buy. As soon as Bitcoin broke this level, okay, around the sort of 5th, 6th of November, many altcoins just woke up like crazy. Okay, so this period of time here is when we saw that massive altcoin rally. When Bitcoin eventually breaks above here, I don't know whether it's going to happen today, tomorrow, in 7 or 8 days, but it will, okay, because the M2 is basically the only guide for this, and it has clearly been accurate over the last few years. When it does, okay, this is going to send everyone from disbelief into belief once more, and altcoins will rally along with it. If we jump across to Total 3 versus Bitcoin, you can see that we are in exactly the same place, pretty much, that we found ourselves in at the start of November before, where there was lots of fear and worry about Kamala Harris coming in, or whether Donald Trump was going to bring in tariffs, or whatever happened, okay? Effectively, liquidity pumped the market, and then Bitcoin rips like this. But Bitcoin, by this point, had already gone up from those kind of lows in sort of September time and was already up around 34%. At that point, the Total 3 of crypto, which is the market cap of crypto minus Bitcoin and Ethereum, considerably more volatile, had only raised around the similar amount. And then we saw something very interesting. Bitcoin had a little bit of sideways chop. It went up to 72, it came back down to 65, and during that time, the Total 3 came back down around 11-12%. But it then pushes towards the upside once more. And this is after a pullback, where it pulled back down around 36%. And around this point, just before that major rally comes in, Total 3 is down around 26% versus Bitcoin. Okay, down around 26%. I want you to remember that number. It is now down around 27-28% versus Bitcoin, just retesting the top of this little pink pattern here. Now we broke up, testing the top of this little pink pattern here. It basically goes up next. And when this happens, you're going to start to see confidence returning to the altcoins, etc. If we jump across and look at the major altcoins that started that initial run back in November, December last year, where we saw like Cardano doing this and in like 4 weeks going up like 4 or 5x. And look, let me just show you. Around this time, Bitcoin had already been climbing up. XRP, one of the biggest market cap coins in crypto, did absolutely nothing. People were like, oh, I can't believe I'm holding this coin. It was down. It was not really doing anything. It was down within just a few weeks, something like 30 or 40%. Many of your altcoins are doing that right now, I'm sure. And then in the space of 4 weeks, it goes up 497%, 610% within just over a month. We're literally sat in that same position right now. If you look at the chart position for XRP, you'll see something very similar is playing out to what we're seeing on Bitcoin. You could say it's maybe like that. You can see they maybe got a little flat bottom base like this. Basically all the same things. So yeah, things are absolutely normal. And then you're like, yeah, but that's XRP and large caps and I'm holding all these other small cap coins. Guys, look at this. This is the others dominance chart. This is basically what goes on, right? As you can see, every time we've been bouncing off of this line since 2017, which is over 8 years ago, you can see that we have a major rally of the others versus Bitcoin. Now, the others are basically the crypto coins outside the top 10 versus Bitcoin. You can see how they perform over time. They obviously do poorly when Bitcoin's kind of going sideways until that major euphoria kicks into the market. But as soon as Bitcoin breaks this high and confirms that the bull market's on, things just start to rally once more. Now, we have an upcoming FOMC meeting happening later tonight or kind of earlier morning in the US, depending on where you are in the world right now. What are we going to see from that? Are we going to see rate cuts? Well, potentially not. But what we have started to see is higher jobless claims in the US, starting to see a bit more pain showing from the US economy right now. And what that tends to mean is it puts more pressure on the Fed. Now, what can the Fed do that might be bullish? Instead of cutting rates, well, they can reduce their quantitative tightening down where it's currently at from around $5 billion to around zero. When that happens, that's going to be bullish for crypto and will send a very bullish signal across crypto. If we start to see the Fed chair coming in saying that times are getting better and we can have a little bit more inflation and all these other things like he's been starting to move towards, then we could see a positive reaction for crypto. What do we see in the short term? What am I doing? Well, maybe there's a black swan event tomorrow and the US goes to war with Iran, brings in Israel, and whoever knows what happens. That we have to consider that, okay? But do we wait for that to happen? Do we wait for a black swan event to happen that's an incredibly rare event? Or do we see every single time that we've had all this fear and worry in the markets before being the best time to buy while everyone's starting to panic once more? Things, in my opinion, are fine. Just seeing a little bit of sideways turmoil push around. And if you look across to Ethereum, things are looking probably the best of any chart out there. Ethereum typically is the coin that runs next against Bitcoin. While Bitcoin's been messing around, Ethereum has actually been outperforming Bitcoin over the last few weeks. This is just a nice healthy pause after this initial pump. No one is buying here. This is an accumulation where people like BlackRock are accumulating, ready for the next major leg up. Once this leg up happens, everyone will be buying ETH and trying to rush in to buy other Ethereum-based tokens. If we look at Sui's had a healthy pullback, but from those April lows, if you're buying into the April lows, you're still up 63%. It's had a nice pullback. If you missed Sui and you were asking a few weeks ago whether it's a good time to buy into Sui, you've now got a much better price that I'm personally quite happy to get into. If you look at Solana from those April lows is still up 50-60%, looking pretty good. Has had a little bit of a pullback. Other altcoins like Aether, it pushed up from its lows around 36% currently. It was up around 130%, still up around 30%, 35%. Okay, these are obviously happening as uncertainty enters the market once more. More uncertainty, smaller market cap coins get more negatively affected. And just one thing to focus on right now. If you're wondering what this M2 really is, M2 is money. Okay, it's circulating money, it's money in bank accounts, it's cash, it's money flowing into the system. What does it mean for us? It's the money that's going to enter into crypto. So when M2 goes up, how is this money entering into crypto? No one seems to be buying Bitcoin because Bitcoin's not moving. Well, it's going to USDT. Okay, this is the USDT market cap. You'll see that when liquidity hit highs back in December, USDT corrects, then sort of chops around for a bit, and then it starts to climb. Eventually, when the M2 starts to climb, USDT goes up. It's added around $15 billion of valuation more recently, okay? Every single time it climbs. If you go back to the last bear market where M2 disappears, you see USDT absolutely dies off as well. This is going up. This is a bull market. Just be patient. Things are absolutely fine, okay? In the short term, if you're feeling pain and worry right now, it's because you were buying into the hype and excitement. And now you're feeling all scared and worried again. You represent the markets, okay? There's smart money who does stuff without emotion. We all have an emotional mind. Trust me, okay? I feel the pain and fear and worry and excitement and whatever else as well. You just have to do the opposite of what you want to do. When you're feeling scared and worried about what's happening, if you buy the market, typically you'll do much better than most, okay? Because most people buy because they're staring at a chart going up and they think it's a good time to buy. If you're then staring and refreshing your crypto portfolio every single day, every 5 minutes because it's going up in value, maybe that's the time to start taking profits, not adding more money to the situation. You see, if you do things the other way around, times actually work out better for you. Crypto is not a scam, but if you continue to enter in after all these hype periods and excitement and then buy, then you find yourself in a world of pain. So guys, just be patient. Things are all right. Obviously not financial advice. This is just my own experience over the years of investing in crypto and understanding exactly what's going on in the markets. Spending 12 hours a day looking into crypto, looking into YouTube, reading the comments, seeing the sentiment, understanding how markets react to news, okay? I've seen it happen before, pretty confident about what's happening next. If you want to go into buy into crypto at all, then make sure you use the links down below for both Bitunix and WEEX because they come with some of the lowest fees around. They also don't require KYC, so you can access them from wherever you are in the world without having to use your personal details. And you can also buy a huge range of different altcoins. Most altcoins won't be available on Coinbase or Binance because they're mostly for larger cap coins. If you want to be able to buy smaller cap coins where you can get some of the biggest gains, then you need to sign up for those 2 accounts down below in the description. If you got this far through, do me a favor, hit the like button. Let me know down below in the comments which coins you've been buying on these recent dips and which coins you want to hear more about. And do me a favor if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. See you very soon. Bye-bye.